In the previous lessons, we learned how to select different elements from the DOM and how to traverse from one element to another. Now, we are going to see how to actually manipulate the DOM, meaning how to create new elements, modify existing ones, or dynamically insert new content inside them. In this part, we will practice all of these tasks hands-on. Let's first see how to create a brand new DOM element. In other words, how can we dynamically build an element ourselves? Suppose we want to create a div. Then we will write const div element is equal to document.createElement in the bracket div. The function name createElement is very straightforward. It literally creates whatever element you specify. If you want a div, pass in div. If you want a paragraph, use p tag. And if you want to add a span, then use span. So basically we can create anything we want. I just created a div element. Now, if we write console.dir and pass that div element inside it, then check in the browser console. What will happen? We will see all the methods and properties of that div element. In other words, we can explore everything that can be done with that element and all the properties it comes with. Now, we can also set different properties on this div element. For example, a div usually has a class. We can add a class to our div element as well. To do that, we use div element.className. Since div element is an object, it comes with many properties and class name is one of them. If we assign it a value like red, then the class name of the div element will become red. Now, you might be wondering, why are we writing .className here? Notice carefully, this is JavaScript code, whereas index.html is plain HTML. In HTML, we just write class, not class name. But since we are working with JavaScript, div element is actually an object. And for that object, a property called class name is already defined. That's why we must use class name instead of a class. If you just write class, it won't work. Those of you who work with React already know that in JSX, we have to use class name instead of class. That's because JSX isn't really HTML. It's actually valid JavaScript code. So the syntax follows JavaScript rules. When JSX is transpiled into JavaScript, it keeps class name. And later, when that JavaScript finally renders into real HTML, it gets converted into class. Now let's add another property, which is ID. We can assign an ID directly as a property, or we can also set it as an attribute. To set it as an attribute, we use div element.setAttribute. In other words, setAttribute is a method of div element that allows us to add any attribute we want. In the setAttribute method, the first argument is the name of the attribute, and the second argument is its value. For example, if we want to set an ID, we will write div element.setAttribute in the bracket ID in the first parameter, comma, and the second parameter red. This means our div element will now have an ID of red. In the same way, we can add more attributes if we want. For instance, let's say we want to set an attribute called title. In that case, we will write div element.setAttribute in the bracket first parameter title, comma, and as a second parameter, we can write red div. Here, the attribute name is title and its value will be red div. Alright, so far we have created a div element, set some attributes on it, and even added a class. But notice carefully, we still haven't added this div element to our HTML. Right now, it only exists as a dynamically created element inside JavaScript. We can inject this div element into our index.html whenever we want. If we want it to actually appear in the UI, we must add it to the HTML, and we can place it anywhere, inside balance summary, container, sidebar, header, or even directly into the body if we like. For example, let's say we want to inject our div element dynamically as the very first child inside the div called balance-summary. To do that, the first thing we need is a reference to balance-summary. Without that reference, we won't even know where to inject it. In the previous lesson, we already saw how to take references of different elements. We will do the same here. So we will write const container, meaning we have named our variable container. Then we assign it like this. Document.querySelector in the bracket dot balance-summary. Since balance summary is a class name, we must use a dot inside query selector, like dot balance-summary. That way, the reference of balance summary will be stored in our container variable. Now the question is, where exactly do we want to inject our element? Inside balance summary, there's currently an h3 element as the first child. We want to insert div element before that h3. For that, we will also need the reference of the h3 element. So, we will define a variable named h3 element, like const h3 element. Then we will write container.querySelector, since we want to query inside the container. Inside querySelector, we will pass h3. This will give us the reference of the first h3 element inside container. We have got the reference of h3 element. Now our goal is to inject div element right before it. For that, we will use the container object. Every HTML element object has a method called insertBefore. Using this method, we can place our div element just before h3 element. So, we will write container.insertBefore. This method takes two arguments. The first argument is the element we want to insert, and the second argument is the element before which we want to insert it. In this case, the first argument will be div element, since that's what we are inserting. The second argument will be h3 element. So our div element gets added right before the h3 element. After saving the code and reloading the browser, you won't see anything directly in the UI. But if you open Chrome DevTools and inspect the DOM, you will notice a new div has been created just above the h3 element. It already has both ID and class set to red. However, since the div is completely empty, with no height, no width, and no children, it appears invisible or blank in the UI. Alright, to make it visible in a nice way, we can do a simple trick. Since we have already added a class to our div element, we can now go into the style.css file and write some CSS for that class named .red. So let's open style.css and at the bottom add a few lines of style code. In short, we created a class called .red where we set height to 100 pixel, width to 200 pixel, and applied a background color so that our div element becomes clearly visible. Now when we reload the page, we can see a bright red box right above the h3 element. That means we have successfully created our div element dynamically and placed it exactly in the position we expected. Now let's look at something interesting. Earlier we saw how to insert an element as the first child of a container. This time we will learn how to insert an element as the last child of a container. It's very simple. We can just use the appendChild method of container to add div element at the very end. For that, we write container.appendChild in the bracket div element. After saving and running the code, you will notice that div element has been added as the last element of the container. So, the summary is, using appendChild, we can inject a new element at the very end of a container. While using insertBefore, we can place a new element before any specific target element. Well, we have just seen how appendChild works, but there's another version called append. Both serve almost the same purpose, but there are some differences in how they are used. Let's go through them step by step. If we replace container.appendChild div element with just append in the bracket div element, then after loading the page, the output will look exactly the same. So the question is, where's the difference? To understand that, instead of div element, let's try append in the bracket hello world. Now check the browser. You will see that hello world has been inserted right at the end of the container. But if we try to do the same thing with appendChild, like appendChild in the bracket hello world, it won't work. That's because appendChild can only insert DOM elements, not raw text directly. On the other hand, the append method can insert both DOM elements and text nodes. Notice this time it didn't work. Inside the browser console, you will clearly see an error. That's because appendChild only expects an HTML element and can only inject that. But append works a little differently. It can take both HTML elements as well as text or nodes. That was the first key difference. Up until now, we have only been passing a single argument. But with append, we can pass multiple children elements or nodes at once. For example, inside container.append, we can first pass div element, then directly add hello inside the p tag. And along with that, we can also add document.createElement in the bracket span, separated by commas. Now, when we save and reload the browser, you will notice that with just one append method call, all of them rendered together at the same time. But if we try the same example with appendChild, meaning we replace append with appendChild and pass 3 arguments, it won't work. Since the first argument is div element, which is a valid element, only that first one will show up in the browser. The rest won't appear at all. That's because appendChild can insert only a single element. It doesn't accept multiple arguments. On the other hand, append can insert multiple elements or nodes at once. That's the second difference. The next difference is in return values. To check this, we will store the return value of appendChild in the bracket div element in a variable named a, and the return value of append in the bracket div element in another variable named b. Now, if we log a and b in the console, you will notice something interesting. The return value of appendChild is actually the element itself. In other words, appendChild returns the same element it just inserted. But in the case of append, the b variable will print undefined, meaning the append method doesn't return anything. So, in summary, these are the 3 main differences between appendChild and append. Depending on our needs, we can choose whichever method fits best. Hopefully, everything we covered in this lesson is now crystal clear to you. See you in the next lesson.